Welcome back to the LPR Trading YouTube channel, everyone. It's Dave again. I've got a trade review here for you guys today, and we were trading ES as we usually do. We laid out a pre-market plan in the Discord room, and we had our eyes on this 44.14 supply zone right up here, this 1 hour supply zone. Now, we can see in the pre-market that price is actually rejecting the supply zone. We're making lower highs into supply. This is something that hasn't been common over the past few days. Buyers are typically stepping up and building new demand, and we're pushing through supply to make larger moves to the upside. If we check out the daily chart right here, we can see that buyers found a bottom in this area and they sucked price right back up above this pivot here at 442.12 area, and they held above this pivot. We're in somewhat of a range here on the daily chart, but we do have movement to the upside, and buyers have been shredding through the supply that was built on the way down, and they're creating new demand below to actually prop price up and possibly push price higher. Now, in the market, we're not trying to forecast what's going to happen. We're to make a plan every single day, come to the market, come to our computers, and execute the plan that we've made for that given day. It's best to have an open bias. You can definitely lean in one direction or another. I typically don't lean in a certain direction more than 70%. I always like to leave that extra 30% just in case I'm seeing something wrong or the market does something that flips my plan on its head. I can reassess and I can revert to a secondary plan that we have on the market. So what I want to do is I want to drill down to the 1 minute chart here for you guys and talk about the market over the past few days going into today. Now, let's talk about yesterday. Yesterday, we have this huge rally here, giant rally all day, really, and then we hold value across in this after-hour session. So the market's holding value here after this large rally. Now, this is really strong for buyers, actually. Typically, if you get a large rally like this and you see a sell-off, it might be indication that sellers are actually taking control in the after hour session. They could definitely be making the move in that after hour session for the next day, so we could find some new demand for a push to the upside. But if buyers do hold value inside of this area, especially in the after hour session, it means that we're probably in for a ride the next day. Now, by being in for a ride, I typically mean price is going to go up on the markets. Now, this isn't always the case, and it wasn't the case today. Now, why do we want to short ES today? We do have, like I said, this 441475 supply zone. We tested it in the pre-market, and going into the open, we started failing off the supply zone. Now, we can't just take that as our only piece of context to take this trade. What we have to do is we have to realize that buyers are still going to aggressively try and push price into and through this supply zone. Even though we're already rejected once, buyers aren't going to sleep just yet. They're factored into this market and factored into this trade all the way from back here. So they're in sort of a take profit area where they're not scared. They're willing to hold and see if new buyers can push price higher so they can get more bang for their buck, essentially. Now, what made us think that it was a possible short today? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box right here. We'll draw a box like this, and we will go no trade zone. Okay, so why did I mark this box out with a no trade zone? Well, we have a 15-minute initial balance, high and low, that we like to wait for. This sort of sets the tone for the day. Now, what is the 15-minute initial balance? Like I said, it's just the high and the low. Typically, the open of the market is a price discovery phase where orders are getting filled with large volume at the market open. So you can have this really wildly oscillating price action that's really tough to trade. Now, we base it on the first 15 minutes. Some do the first 30 minutes, the first 1 hour, whatever it is. You suit yourself. But what we like to look at outside of this 15-minute initial balance is one of a few things. Well, we have supply overhead, and we've seen a rejection off supply here. So that means sellers are definitely present in this area for the time being. Now, one thing that interests us, and this is actually one of our A-plus type setups or A-plus type plays here, is when we break the opening range high, which is the 15-minute initial balance high. This is a new high on the day. This is a new high on the US open session, okay? Now, if buyers are strong at this point, they should be pushing the new high and holding the new high for another leg to the upside. We like to see a rally off the lows, strong buyers accumulating on top of the high here for another push through supply to the upside. Now, one thing that kept us away from taking any of this long was we are in supply, and we're in supply that is proving to work. Is every supply and demand zone going to act and react the same, or act and react with buyers and sellers present? No. We have these zones on our chart to identify areas for us that buyers or sellers could be present at. Okay, it's our job when price gets there to analyze the situation, put the pieces of our puzzle together, and make a decision on whether sellers are present or if buyers might be accumulating within supply to push stock or market up for another leg. Now, what we do here, or what we did, was we took this trade, and we call this trade the TZ trade in the group. Okay, this is a trap zone trade. This is typically where a lot of bad retail traders got long on the market. They're playing an opening range high breakout, an opening range breakout, whatever you want to call it, they're playing a high break on the day. Okay, what they're not realizing is that sellers are present. Sellers are actually pushing price down. We had a good rally yesterday. Buyers are likely going to start taking profit. Essentially, buyers are just waiting to see what the market does at the open here. And as soon as we push up and start failing, this is when buyers start bailing and say, okay, enough is enough. And also, good shorts jump on the trade in this area, which is what we did. So, unfortunately, for this trade, if we look at how far the market went down, including the after-hour session, our trade is going to look minuscule compared to how far the market moved. Now, this is for a few reasons. Number one, we don't expect things like this. We can't anticipate things like this happening. And number two, I made a tiny boo-boo, and I will let you guys know of the boo-boo. So we're short right in this area, and our average price was roughly 44.12. Somewhere in that area, so 44.12, and our stop is above the highs at 44.14-ish, so we've got about a 2-point stop on this guy. And as price started moving down, I ended up all out. I ended up taking a partial somewhere right up in this area here. I ended up taking a partial at low of day, and then when we came back into low of day here, I actually added some more. I got a quick partial, and then I got stopped out at my new break even, which was somewhere here. Now, what was the mistake that I made? The mistake that I made was I added too aggressively into the lows when I should have been adding up here. This is a mistake because by adding into the lows and not against my stop, it diluted my position and really ruined my average. So when my average screamed all the way down to here on my ad, I didn't have much of a choice but to stop out on this one because we don't want to turn a green trade to a red trade. Whereas if I went back and I just waited patiently for the ad, we would have popped back up here, and I could have potentially got an ad in this area. If not in this area, once we break the lows, we come back and we retest the 50-minute initial balance low. This is a phenomenal entry or a phenomenal add to your position. And then I would have been able to let a lottery position run and build a new core position out of that. So that's the mistake that I made on the day. Overall, this was a great trade. The profit was great, but if we look at it, we did leave a lot on the table. Now, I deleted them, but there was a demand zone somewhere down in this area, and this likely would have been my final target anyways, but this being a final target over low of day, which is pretty much where I got out, this is substantial, especially because we could have had ads, adding a core position back, taking it off, letting a lottery position run, and lightly moving our average down rather than shorting a low like a poor retail trader and really crushing my average. Okay, so that's a quick trade review of today, and I know a lot of students took this trade actually in the chat room, and a lot of them held this trade for a very long time, which was fantastic, and they actually used this trade to navigate themselves throughout the day. Like I said, just adding a core position, taking a partial, adding back some more, taking a partial, always leaving that lottery runner to make its way down to a demand zone or a final target. With that being said, we'll cut it here, and if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave a comment down below, like, subscribe. I'll get back to every single comment that you have. And if you guys are interested in seeing any video specifically on trading, order flow, charts, supply and demand, you guys let me know and I'll do my job to put that content out for you guys. With that being said, we'll see you guys on the chart.